If climate change is going to influence monsoon vigor and availability in coming years, the time to take action and make changes is now. Examine 250 words relationship between climate change and monsoon. Rainfall extremes have increased threefold over the last few years and now extend over all of central India from Gujarat to Odisha. The floods of 2017 are quite consistent with this pattern. The moisture is derived from the northern Arabian Sea and not from depressions in the Bay of Bengal. For the third year in a row, India's monsoon season has produced floods in the northwest and the northeast, while southern parts of the country have suffered from a rainfall deficit. The onset of a monsoon has been delayed almost every year since 1976, when there was a regime shift in climate around the world from a weak to a strong El Niño period. Since this time, monsoons have also been ending sooner, so the length of the rainy season has been compressed. During a monsoon season, there are usually random break periods when there is hardly any rainfall. These periods are associated with systems moving northwards from the equatorial region. Global warming and climate change is shortening the length of the active periods when it does rain, while lengthening the break periods. So, just about everything about a monsoon is changing: rainfall intensity, duration, frequency, and spatial distribution. Anthropogenic aerosols emitted through human activities might be a more important factor for change in monsoon patterns. Climate models have indicated with high confidence that climate change will lead to an increase in extreme rainfall events. For India, the average monsoon rainfall is expected to increase initially and then reduce after a few decades. Impact: climate change will cause low-pressure systems (LPSS) that create the Indian monsoon rains to shift northwards. The resulting reduction in rainfall that some areas will experience could have a major impact on agriculture. This can affect the livelihood of farmers and can lead to increase in farmers' suicides. Monsoons are erratic, perhaps increasingly so because of climate change. Food prices soar, the poor go hungry, reservoirs empty, and power cuts hamstring businesses. The impact even ripples overseas as commodity markets are starved of Indian sugar and rice. Poor monsoons delay planting and produce smaller yields of crops such as rice, corn, sugarcane, and oilseeds. That can accelerate food inflation. About 800 million of India's 1.3 billion people count on agriculture for a living, yet less than half of its farmland have access to irrigation. India faces major threats to its water security, with most water bodies near urban centers heavily polluted. Interstate disputes over river resources are also becoming more intense and widespread. Along with water scarcity, there is the issue of water quality. The Central Pollution Control Board report indicates that almost half of India's interstate rivers are polluted. It found that the untreated sewage and industrial waste was a major cause of pollution. India's water problem is being caused by several factors like increase in population, reduced rainfall, encroachment of water bodies, poor handling of industrial wastewater, exploitation of natural resources, change in food consumption pattern, etc. have all come together to deplete the amount of water available. Measures taken for water conservation and management. Gujarat state government has embarked on a labor-intensive program to desilt rivers and water bodies ahead of the rains. Government of India has launched National Water Mission with the objective of conservation of water, minimizing wastage and ensuring more equitable distribution both across and within states through integrated water resources development and management. River rejuvenation. With deteriorating quality of water in Congo and Yaduna in 1985, the Ganga Action Plan GAP Phase I, followed by GAP Phase II, starting in 1993. Similarly, a Yaduna Action Plan was also started in 1993 as a bilateral project with the Japanese government. In 2009, the National Ganga River Basin Authority (NGRB) with the Prime Minister as its chairman, was formed. The total expenditure till March 2014 was Rs 986.34 crore. In July 2014, the Modi government launched the Namani Ganj project with more or less the same purpose as the GAP has served. Government has focused on cleaning the gangs, but there has been little progress so far on a project which has defeated successive administrations, despite substantial funding. The declaration of the Congo and the Yaduna as living entities signals a renewed effort to rescue our rivers. Groundwater Bill, 2017. The bill proposes a new regulatory framework based on the recognition of the unitary nature of groundwater pool, the need for decentralized control, and the necessity to protect water at the aquifer level. It recognizes water as a public trust and a fundamental right. The bill also builds on the decentralization mandate and seeks to give regulatory control over groundwater resources to local bodies. The proposed new regime will benefit the resource through the introduction of groundwater security plans and valuable local participation. This will serve as a mandate to use groundwater wisely, protect it for our own benefit, as well as for future generations. The World Bank's Water Scarce Cities initiative seeks to promote an integrated approach to managing water resources and service delivery in water-scarce cities as the basis for building resilience against climate change. 6,000 crore World Bank-aided Atal Bhujo Yojana with community participation is prepared to ensure sustained groundwater management in overexploited and groundwater-stressed areas in 7 states. Government of India is committed to accord high priority to water conservation and its management. To this effect, Pradhan Mantri Krishi Sinchai Yojana (PMKZ) has been formulated with a vision of extending the coverage of irrigation Dani and improving water use efficiency more crop per drop in a focused manner with end-to-end solution on source creation, distribution, management, field application, and extension activities. According to the annual report of the Ministry of Drinking Water and Sanitation, about 77% of rural habitations in India have achieved a fully covered status under the National Rural Drinking Water Program, and 55% of the rural population have access to tap water. Ministry has also taken special steps to address the issue of water quality. The submission program is being implemented to eliminate the problems of water quality in about 28,000 habitations affected by arsenic and fluoride by 2020. Criticism: there are different municipal agencies and government bodies, often working at cross purposes, who are supposed to be working to save rivers. The Yamuna River project has not addressed the issue of environmental flow, which is crucial to save the river. It does not tell the action plans for rejuvenation of the river and its repair and ecosystem that generate ecological services, including the storage of flood water, enhanced recharging of groundwater, flood regulation, treatment of sewage before and after discharging into river. Straightening of rivers is entirely opposed to their ecological integrity and is environmentally destructive and downright dangerous to the river banks and riverine population. There is no understanding of river hydrology and floodplains, which form diverse habitats for flora and fauna. Here lies the root of the problem. Water in India is a state government subject and water laws are state-based. The state has the constitutional power to make laws, to implement and regulate water supplies, irrigation and canals, drainage and embankments, water storage and hydropower. This creates conflicts between center and state. There is nothing in the Constitution or law that shows an understanding of what a river is, what services it provides, or the conservation of rivers. There is no legal protection for rivers in India. This is the reason various legal and institutional measures such as the Water Pollution Act, CPCB, the State Pollution Control Board's Ganga Action Plan, Yamuna Action Plan, and the National River Conservation Plan have yielded no results. Successive governments have ignored river protection, and a proposal for a river regulation zone has been gathering dust for over a decade. Government Resolution GR mentions desilting, straightening and deepening of rivers. This is not river rejuvenation. Government is just focusing on pollution and trying to find an engineering solution while ignoring the core issue, the ecological problem. Open defecation in the river's groundwater exploitation still very high. India receives an average rainfall of 1,170 millimeters per year. It is estimated that only 6% of rainwater is stored. Unless drastic measures are taken to minimize water usage, the day may not be far off when authorities will be forced to ration water supply in cities like Bengaluru, which has been ranked second in the list of 11 global cities which might face the imminent threat of running out of drinking water. What else is needed? Genetically modified plants suited to droughts might help, as would selecting more appropriate crops than thirsty rice and sugarcane in water-scarce regions. Tackling India's chronic air pollution may be among the most effective policies. A monsoon itself is highly variable. This underscores the need for comprehensive reforms at the level of states, with the center helping to conserve hydrological resources. There is also the challenge of reducing demand for farming, given that the Mirror Shaw Committee estimated public irrigation efficiency to be a low 35%. Farmers need to be helped with the latest technologies to cut water use. Development needs to be climate smart, but also avoid social and institutional challenges such as moral hazard. Cities could be laid out to reduce flooding by following natural contours, drainage and tank systems. Emergency responders should be well prepared to transport and care for people who may become stranded during disasters. Regional and transboundary cooperation in water security. India must take the lead in consulting SAARC nations to foster information sharing and joint management of transboundary water resources and perhaps shape a common stance on international climate change negotiations. Rainwater harvesting to recharge aquifer and fill up ponds/lakes. Leveraging MGNREGA to build harvesting capacity. Micro-irrigation, in the light of PMKZ, aiming towards per drop more crop. Farmers should be aware and incentivized towards drip and sprinkler irrigation. This will prevent water wastage and increase water productivity. Using M-Kisan, extension service and awareness to farmers to use mixed cropping, incentivizing horticulture. Pulses sowing can be done. This will reduce water guzzling crops like rice and sugarcane. Nature-based solutions hold great promise in areas which also include sustainable food production, improved human settlements, access to drinking water supplies and sanitation, water-related disaster risk reduction, and helping to respond to the impact of climate change on water resources. Environmentally friendly agricultural systems like those which use practices such as conservation tillage, crop diversification, legume intensification and biological pest control work as well as intensive, high-input systems. Constructed wetlands for wastewater treatment can also be a cost-effective, nature-based solution that provides effluent of adequate quality for several non-potable uses, irrigation and additional benefits that include energy production. Watershed management is another nature-based solution to encourage traditional water systems. Ecologically safe engineering marvels of water conservation have existed in India for nearly 1,500 years, including traditional systems of water harvesting, such as the Bawari, Jaihalira, Nabi, Tangka, and Kun. They continue to remain viable and cost-effective alternatives for replenishing depleted groundwater aquifers. With government support, they could be revived, upgraded and productively combined with modern rainwater-saving techniques such as panic cuts, percolation tanks, injection wells and subsurface barriers. This may be a far more sustainable approach to alleviating the water scarcity crisis across India. The basic concept underlying all these techniques is that rain should be harvested whenever and wherever it falls. Urban India needs to focus on recycling and harvesting water, having better testing and purification facilities and increase public awareness on the need to conserve water. International examples. Israel has been a role model for the world in matters of water management with its innovation of drip irrigation. The country has also set the template for reusing wastewater in irrigation. It treats 80% of its domestic wastewater, which is recycled and constitutes nearly 50% of the total water used for agriculture. Israel now saves as candlelight for countries like India. Israel's drip and micro-irrigation solutions rapidly spread worldwide. Just one recent example of how this method has impacted food supply in foreign countries is Tippet, literally drop, an Israeli-developed pit that has allowed 700 farming families in Senegal to reap crops 3 times a year instead of just once, even on infertile land. Large catchment areas need to be developed around water bodies so that natural recharge of groundwater takes place. A good example is the Sea Hog catchment area, which has been denoted as a wildlife sanctuary and where no construction is allowed. Greywater recycling, the method of recycling wastewater from kitchen sinks, showers and laundry fixtures. Greywater recycling helps reduce household water usage by about 50%.